welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is memory. We get to explore what is memory, and is it something immutable, and is it stored somewhere, and all kinds of conversation around this. It should be a lot of fun. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding into your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your electrons, all your molecules, lighting you up from the inside out. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining stress, tension, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together and softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms to feel the deliciousness of that sensation and allow yourselves to become present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So memory, I had this awesome conversation yesterday about memory, and it started off by where is memory stored? And it was really interesting because this person that brought up the topic with me was talking about experiments that had been done with snails that had received, there was a control group of snails, obviously, that had received no shock. And then there were snails that had received a shock of a certain duration, like 15 seconds, and or a short shock, and they had a recovery period of about 15 seconds. And then there were other snails that received a longer shock, and they had a recovery period of something like 50 seconds. And then some of the DNA was taken from the snails that had received the longer shock, and it was injected into snails that had never received a shock. And those snails, I don't know if it was DNA or RNA actually, but anyway, those snails then had a longer recovery time from a nominal shock that was sort of similar to the original super shocked snails. So I hope you could follow that. But the thought is that there's information of some sort that is stored in, and this is not news to us, right? But RNA and DNA, and I may be wrong about the RNA. Anyway, that there is information somehow that is stored in different places in our body and being. So we know about cellular memory, and we know that there are memories that can be accessed by stimulating different portions of our brain, that there are body memories that we have. So that, for instance, you might have a massage, and at one point a memory may be triggered from the stimulation of a certain place on your body. And so we were talking about all these different places that memory can be stored. But the question that arose for me first, really, to be able to have that conversation, is trying to understand what is memory. And is it that information is stored in the way that information is stored in a computer? Or is there some kind of mechanism that is memory, you know, a triggering mechanism that enables access to information that is always there. Good morning, Bernadette. Welcome. Great to have you here for this conversation about memory. I think it's a really, really interesting conversation because we know that memory is mutable, right? We know that our memories of things can change and can be changed over time. And we also, there's something called the Mandela effect. And I actually looked it up this morning to get further clarity on it, but it is an interesting phenomenon because it has to do with a collective misremembering of information. And there are tons of examples of this on a website that I looked up. You know what I'll do is I'll put the link in the chat here, because it was so interesting that there are a bunch of examples of this collective misremembering. So the reason that this phenomena is called the Mandela effect is because I think Mandela died in, oh, I'm not sure of what the year is. Hold on one second. But what happened, okay, so he died in 2013. However, there are lots and lots of people who have a recollection, incorrect recollection, as far as history goes, of him dying in jail a year in the 80s. So it's very, very interesting because what is that memory? That in some of the other examples they have is about the peanut butter. Was it Jif or Jiffy peanut butter, or is it Jif or Jiffy? And just to save you from the suspense, it's Jif, but a lot of us remember it as Jiffy, right? Jiffy peanut butter, but it's Jif. And so check out that article. It's really interesting. And Bernadette says, I think if we continue to tell ourselves something over and over and over again, we tend to believe that. I think that's 100% true, Bernadette. And the interesting thing is that, you know, there are explanations for how memories change. But again, this is all based on a mechanistic idea. But you know, it's in long-term memory. You pull it out of long-term memory, you bring it into short-term memory, and when you put it back into long-term memory, there's some breakdown of the data or the integrity of the data. I don't think it's as mechanistic as that. And what I was saying is that that memory or information that we can access resides in our blood, in our cells, in our brain, in our being, in the field, you know, in the collective field. And that, when we talk about the Mandela effect, that really is talking about the collective field and how we collectively have a misremembering of certain facts that is fascinating. And I know I've spoken about this with you guys before, about how my mom and I have been comparing memories here and there and found that we have very different recollections of certain events, and with equal conviction. Or I have a vivid recollection of an event that she has no recollection of, or vice versa. And it's so interesting to be thinking about this stuff. I mean, I don't know about you, but I have had many, many very random moments where a seemingly random, unrelated memory just comes to mind from nowhere. And a vivid recollection that has nothing to do with whatever's going on in the moment, at least seemingly it doesn't. Now, maybe, oh, excuse me, and moving energy, all this memory stuff. I think when we talk about memory, we can't avoid the conversation about time and maybe ultimately the nature of being, because how is it that we can have such divergent memories of a similar event? And how is it that we can also have this collective misremembering of certain verifiable facts? So Bernadette says, I think sometimes events can be interpreted differently. Absolutely. Due to different personalities. Kind of reminds me of the game Telephone. Exactly. And I'm not even talking about interpretation of events. I'm talking about like the kinds of things that can be quote unquote factually verified. But absolutely, the way that we interpret events also shifts our experience of them, right? And our memory of them. So I think that we have selective memory. And ow, Maggie just went and attacked my foot for no reason. And she bites hard. She's like the weirdest creature. Anyway, so that was a pattern interrupt because now I have no recollection of what I was saying. I think when another really good example of the lack of reliability of memory is eyewitness accounts of something. Oh, Bernadette, I'm so sorry you have to go. Thank you so much for being here and for engaging with me. I really appreciate it. And I invite everybody else who's listening to chime in and let's have a conversation. I hope you have a great day, Bernadette. Thanks for being here. So with what was I talking about? Eyewitnesses. So I believe there have been studies done about how fallible eyewitnesses are, in descriptions of people that were supposedly present during an incident. When we're on high alert, or when we're not really paying close attention, our perception is going to be very, very different given our emotional state, right? And you've probably had experiences where it seemed like everything slowed down and was moving in slow motion, and you had a heightened awareness of things. And other times, this is the greatest experiment or video. Let me see if I can find a link to this for you because it's just too funny. Let me just see. This is talking about perception. Okay, hold on. Let me see. Let me see if I can find this. This is the best. This is the best. So you've got to watch this video. Now, the thing about the video is that you need to watch it. And what the idea is here is that you need to count the number of passes of the basketball. And so watch that. Oops, I don't know if I put in the right link. Hold on one second. I thought I had the link. What I did was instead I put in the search. Sorry, let me put this back in there for you guys, because you've got to watch this. It's just awesome. And I don't want to ruin it for you. So I don't want to ruin it for you, but I think I'm going to, because I want you to be aware of how we have very selective attention, and that attention can impact our memory and our experience. So this video, if you watch it and you count the players and then the passes of the basketball, what happens is, oh, I hate to ruin it. I'm not going to ruin it for you. So I invite you to do that and then watch it again. And then just watch it again without counting the passes, just paying attention to what's going on in the video. And it's miraculous, because you will notice something very, very different than you noticed when you were counting the passes of the basketball. And this is because we see, and I would venture to say, remember, the things that we put our attention to, and our attention is tremendously variable. And so I wonder if, I know that by doing brain probes that they're able to stimulate recall of certain memories. However, I wonder what the accuracy of that memory that is stimulated is. I don't know if there's studies about that. And actually, I realized that I gave away the game by posting my search query. So I'm going to just say, when you watch that video and you just focus on how many passes are being made, there is actually a gorilla that walks right through the video that you don't see, because you're so focused on counting the number of passes. And then when you watch it again, it's almost as if somebody could put in a whole different video, because how in the world could you possibly miss a gorilla walking right through the game, right? You can't miss it, but we do. And so this just puts a whole new perspective on the notion of memory and perception and awareness. And it's a very humbling demonstration of how truly unreliable our perceptions can be. And how they can so easily be manipulated. And I think that this is the case with memory as well. Like we tend to interact with memory as a thing, like something that's true, something that's immutable. And I'm thinking that perhaps memory is more of a process, a function, that it's an activity more than it has anything to do with accessing stored information like there is on a computer. I don't think that that it's as clearly articulated, right? That anyway, it's really, really interesting. So for instance, if we're also talking about memory, what's going on when someone is doing, for instance, a psychic reading, let's say someone's doing an accurate psychic reading, what's happening there when they're accessing your memories, when they're able to tune in? Like, I remember once I was doing some kind of exercise in a group or something, and I was tuning into this person, and I had this visual of them in the woods wearing a red jacket. And I said something about it, and they were shocked. And so this was a memory that they had, an event in their lives that somehow I was able to pick up on. So what's up with that? What is that? My interpretation was that memory resides in the field, or information resides in a collective field. Maybe not just exclusively, but that's where it resides. And then maybe these other avenues give us access points. So maybe there's access points to that information through blood, through cells, through the brain, through the nervous system, through muscle memory. Interesting. I wonder what you think about memory. What do you think memory is? And have you had experiences where memory has shifted, or where you and somebody else have very, very different memories of the same event? Good morning, Isabel. So good to have you here. We're talking about memory and what the nature of it is. Is memory something that is like data stored and that is immutable, or is it something else? And if so, what else might it be? So Elaine says nothing is what it seems to be, as all see what they call forth to experience. A beautiful hologram tailored to each individual soul to experience. To me, anyway, memory to me is programmed information. Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's a really, really interesting conversation. And I don't know if you were here for the earlier conversation about perception, but our perception, it is like a hologram because it is kind of tailored to our state of mind in a given moment, or our predisposition to see and experience certain things. We see what we want to see in so many ways, and memory is a function of that experience to a great degree. The thing is that I believe that we tap into collective memory. So like, I know a lot of healer people who have a deep fear of being visible, or speaking out, being seen. And what's underlying that, from what I have been able to glean in working with so many people, is like this, maybe you could say past life memory or collective memory of being persecuted for having been a healer person, from having deviated from the socially acceptable norm. And therefore people become self-limiting through this memory. It's almost like a physical memory, or an energetic, time transcendent memory of being drowned, or being burned at the stake, or being hung for being a witch, and all these different experiences for people who are healer people. I can't tell you how many times I've encountered that dynamic with folks. It's wild. So what is memory? And I guess the question has to do with does memory have anything to do with truth? If you check out the article, the link that I had posted about the Mandela effect, we can see that collectively we misremember a lot of stuff. And how is that possible? You know, like even if we don't have a direct even if we're unprompted to remember something, like one of the things is, did Curious George have a tail or not? Do you remember if Curious George had a tail or not? And you probably remember Curious George the monkey. I grew up with Curious George, and I remembered, or when in thinking about it, I thought he had a tail. Well, Curious George didn't have a tail, apparently. And there are lots and lots of things like this that we misremember, generally, that many of us misremember. And, you know, so what's happening there? What's the dynamic? I'm just so curious about consciousness. And I love, Elaine, that you said it's a hologram, that is an individualized hologram. And I tend to agree that really, you know, maybe all of it is in our head, right? Like that all of it is an expression of our consciousness playing out in this dimension, so to speak. I watched a really interesting short series on Netflix. It was called I, the letter I, and the I Land. And I invite you to watch it. It was really, really interesting. And kind of talking about the nature of the mind in a certain respect. It was really interesting. And experience, and virtual experience versus real experience. And you know, my favorite question has always been, what's real and what's not real? So this TV show kind of speaks to that a bit. So and Lane says, memory to me is programmed information. The question is, who's doing the programming? You know, and I guess it wasn't it 1984 that talks about shifting the memory, the collective perception, and kind of erasing. We talked today about people being canceled, right? And it's kind of rewriting of history. It's all very, very interesting, this memory thing, and how reliable is it? Anyway, that's some portion of my musings. Elaine says, freedom is living free from the past, all past, ending suffering over and over again in the mind is just information, useful or not, and let go of if one chooses to. So I agree with you that real freedom is freedom from preconception. Freedom is freedom from preconception, and preconception comes from the past, right? Comes from our collective experience. So, and it's, you know, years ago I was at an event. It was a week-long event with the Dalai Lama in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I wrote down one of the things, well, many things, but one particular thing that he said that was my takeaway. And it was that false conceptualization is the cause of all suffering. And this goes to the hologram too. But when you're saying freedom is living free from the past, it's freedom is living free of any fault, any pre-conceptualization, right? Or prejudice, right? So good morning, Dennis. It's great to have you here. We've been talking about memory, and now we're talking about consciousness and freedom. And Elaine says freedom is living in the now, no mind, no thinking, just present. 100%. That is exactly the truth. That is the place of freedom, is being completely, entirely present in the moment. That's a perfect place to end this morning's conversation. So we've been talking about memory and what is it and where does it live, if it is a thing, and does it have anything to do with truth or reality? And very, very interesting conversation. So I invite you to go find the link that I post. There are two links that I posted, one to an article about the Mandela effect, and the other one is about is a really cool, oh, you know what? I think I might have put in the wrong link after all of that. Let me just see. I'll put in here's the link. I'm going to put in this link so that you get to see it, because it is really, really awesome. When you watch this video, watch it and count the number of passes that are made. It's a basketball game. Count the number of passes and then watch it again. And the second time, just watch it and you'll be in for a surprise. And so Elaine says it's a choice when one is ready to just be present in the moment. You know, I think that there's a lot of unlearning that goes on before we get to just be present. I think that, I guess to your point, when one is ready, when you've done all the preliminary work to allow yourself to be in a place of presence, then it's available to you, and not before. We'll say that. Anyway, always such a tremendous pleasure and gift to be spending this time with you. And I'm so grateful to you for engaging with me and playing in these conversations. Such a privilege and a joy. And with that, I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And I go live each weekday morning here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. Please check out the other awesome programming on the other Enlightened World Network, Facebook's EWN, One with the Earth, and Enlightened World Living. And Elaine says, when you tried it all and you're ready to finally let go, you will. And here's to letting go. So with that, so much love. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you again here really soon. Take care.